John Hook's Newsmaker starts now.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker. My first guest is an American success story. A hard-scrabble childhood raised in Baltimore, he enlisted in the Marines during the Vietnam War. Receiving the Purple Heart, he was injured. Attended college on the GI Bill, went on to found several companies including GoDaddy, PXG, Yam Worldwide. He is now one of the wealthiest people in the world and has given back over $300 million to some 96 charities worldwide. And he's also an author. Fire in the Hole, his life story and his battle with PTSD and the treatment that saved him. Bob Parsons joins me on Newsmaker. Great to see you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, John. Thank you.
Bob, your story is remarkable. I mean, you were raised in a tough family, not a lot of love there. I mean, there was love in different ways, but there was a lot of kind of letting you on with your own devices. And you weren't much of a student, but somehow you turned this around, and I think the Marines were the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, the United States Marine Corps. John, everything I ever accomplished, I owe to the Marine Corps, even to this day. So, you know, I'm tight with the guys I served in Vietnam with. There's 6 of them and 1 of me, so I guess seven of us. And you know, the Marine Corps taught me so much. They taught me responsibility, discipline. Discipline in the sense that whatever you're committed to do to the guy on the left or right, you do. You don't have to like it. You don't have to want to do it. It doesn't have to feel good, but you got to do it. And they taught me that I could accomplish far more than I ever thought I could, and that I had a right to be proud.
Okay, so Bob, it's so interesting. At 17, you kind of had struggled in school. You weren't really into school. But something in you, I sense in the book that you kind of knew you needed something. You don't just join the Marines kind of on a lark, do you? I mean, you must have thought, I need something, and this may be it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I knew that I needed a change, you know, and family life for me back home was not much, almost non-existent, and I needed to belong to something. And so when I was 17, I had 2 buddies of mine after school one day said, you know, we're going to go talk to the Marine recruiter down on Conklin Street. Would you like to join us? I said, absolutely, I would. So we went down there, talked to this recruiter. He had us from the word go, and we all enlisted. And this was in 1968 at the height of the Vietnam War. And to put the Vietnam War into perspective, if you look at any of the Gulf Wars, you know, the average casualties, killed and wounded both sides during those were, you know, 150 a week. In Vietnam, that was like 32,000 a week.
It was incredible. I mean, I was old enough to remember those reports of casualties coming over the CBS Evening News with Cronkite, and it was just astonishing. And it had the country aflame, as you know. So, Bob, there's a moment in the book where you talk about coming to peace with being killed. If you were going to be killed in battle, you surrendered to it and you were okay with it. And that was a moment of complete liberation.
Exactly. And you know, I've learned to do that. I did that then, and I've used that throughout, you know, the rest of my life where, you know, if anything, it concerns me that it's going to happen, and it's something maybe that I'd rather didn't happen. What I never agonize over it. I never worry. I just say to myself, it's going to happen, and I just think about what I'm going to do when it does. And normally, I don't worry at all.
That's the other thing that struck me in the book. You became a man free of, well, if you had fear, you just played through it. A lot of us go through life with a lot of worry and a lot of, you know, you worry about stuff that will never happen, but you worry about it. You seem to be able to put that on the back burner and have no problem with taking risk.
Oh, exactly, because if if you worry something's going to not work, and you spend your time making sure it does, that it does work. Normally you're doing things that are not the right things at the time, and so what I do is I just operate based on whatever's got me concerned that's going to happen, and I deal with it that way, and it is so liberating that I try to tell everybody that I know and talk to, when they say to me, like, nothing bothers you. Well, I just deal with it differently. And am I concerned if it happens? Yeah, I'm concerned, but I don't fret about it. I just make a plan what I'm going to do when it does happen. And there you go.
Is it too simplistic to say, of everything you've achieved in your life, you are most proud of being a Marine?
Well, absolutely. Well, the Marine Corps, everything I've ever accomplished, I owe to the United States Marine Corps. They taught me responsibility, that responsibility is sacred, discipline, that you don't have to like to do something, or it doesn't have to feel good, or you got to want to do it, but you got to do it, and you got to do it to the best of your abilities. They taught me that I could accomplish more than I thought I could, and they taught me that I had a right to be proud. And for me, that was illuminating, and that was the door that opened up the rest of my life.
When you get out, you end up on the GI Bill, and you find out that you are really good with numbers, something you did not know when you were in school.
No. I mean, I could always do a little bit about math. I understood fractions. My mother taught me those when she taught me how to read the racing form for the horse track.
Right.
It might be 7/8 of a mile or something like that. And I'll never forget, she taught me that an eighth is actually more than a 16th. And I was just a little guy then, but maybe that was an early indication.
And so you kind of go down the accounting track, and then you end up in various positions, but with each one, you had this burning feeling that you wanted to be your own boss, didn't you?
Exactly. And, that took place in 1984, when I was a computer hobbyist, and I had a IBM PC, and I would never buy software. If I wanted my computer to do something, I wrote the code, and I got to be good at it. And then I wrote this financial product because I was had a degree in accounting, and I was a CPA, and the program got to be good, so I started selling it through a little company I made, operated in my basement, and lost all my money the first couple of years, and then I learned how to make money, and got a big break on some advertising, and the company took off, and then I quit my full-time job and worked at this little business. And built it into a big business. To get it off the ground, John, I used to work 60-hour shifts, 60 hours straight, and then I would take 8 hours off, and get some sleep, get cleaned up and so forth, and then 60 hours more. And I did that for a year or so, and by doing that, this business took off, and I sold it for $64 million.
All you hear today from young people coming into the working world is, I want life-work balance. And you've got to be hiring right now at your companies people with those sensibilities. Are they right, and were we wrong to be all in on work?
Well, I've met a number of people who have told me that they work smart. And the one thing I know about people who work smart, you will find that they always work for somebody who works hard.
Oh, man, that is very interesting. That is very interesting. Okay, so when you start, I think you sell that company, you were competing, the first company, you were competing with TurboTax and all those guys. You end up getting bought out and you've got a little bit of a cushion, right, at that point?
Right, exactly.
To go out and try something else.
So what happened? Sold it for $64 million. Had to have some money saved. I had PTSD pretty seriously. Not a great guy to be married to. My wife, who's a wonderful woman at the time, her name is Martha. She booted me, and so I took. I had about 36 million, and I moved to Arizona, where I figured I would play golf while I had this agreement not to compete. And so I did that for a while, and then I decided there's no way I want to not be back in the business world. So I started a company which became GoDaddy, and came close to going broke there. I started it with 36 million, and I used to keep track of things by how much cash I had. Yep. I'd say, well, I won't be worried about this company till I get down to 30 million. Then I got down to 30 million, and then 25, and I get to 25, 20, get to 20, 18, and then I got down to $6 million.
Yes.
John.
Yes, I read it in the book. It was unbelievable, and you were still all in. You had to move to a different location, the ranch house in Scottsdale.
Yeah, the GoDaddy Ranch. Yeah. You see, because in Arizona or Scottsdale, this property that I bought, it was an old ranch, and it was not zoned for anything but ranching, and so I was developing software, and so rather than try to get the zoning changed, I just put a sign up, the GoDaddy Ranch, and it worked.
Oh, did it ever? We're going to take a break here on Newsmaker. We're back with Bob Parsons right after this. Back with entrepreneur and just a terrific guy, Bob Parsons on Newsmaker. You really put your timing was impeccable because the dot-com explosion was happening. But then in 2004, you come up with this crazy Super Bowl commercial that was very provocative. And I think that, above anything else, put you on the map.
Oh, absolutely. Our market share when we ran that commercial was at 16%. The day after we ran it, it jumped to 25% and held. And so, I was asked, our commercials were a little saucy. So, I was asked, well, how come you're still doing it? I said, well, if your business grew by 50%, when you did this once, would you do it again? I said, sure. And I said, well, there you go.
Yeah, and you got a lot of free media out of it because I think Fox canceled one of your commercials. So that became a big thing. That became a big story. It was a big story because what happened when they canceled that ad, see, the deal was it took me until a week before the Super Bowl to get the initial ad approved. The Candace, this was taken, the ad was in like a courtroom scene. Yes.
And, it was this fictitious ad review group.
And a beautiful woman.
And they're asking her what she's going to do. So she goes, I could do something like this, and twirls around, and her tank top strap snaps, but she catches it. And, and the guys on the board about have a heart attack. One of the guys starts taking oxygen.
Yes.
Anyhow, we get this thing approved.
And that's a year or two after the wardrobe malfunction. So you were playing off of that whole theme.
That was 1 year after it. That was the next year. So anyhow, I finally get it approved, And the guy, my ad salesman with Fox says, the moment it's approved, he goes, "You want to buy another ad?" And I said, "There's no way I will get this ad. I can't make another ad, in a week." He says, "Run the same one twice." And he gave me a smoking deal. The ad that he gave, the position was right before the 2-minute warning. And they at that time, it was Philadelphia playing the Patriots, and Philly was on the 2-yard line. It was third down, and they're getting and the 2-minute warning comes up. So I take in we're all watching the ad in my office as we planned on, and the ad comes up, and instead of our ad showing, they run a Fox Network ad of something more acceptable, which is Homer Simpson stabbing a baby.
Oh man, unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. But anyhow, I wrote a blog article about what happened. It was picked up all over the world. I was doing interviews from sun up to sundown for a week.
Free
and then when I got
advertising.
together with Fox, they said, "Well, of course, I don't have to pay for the ads that didn't run, but the settlement, since I had this all approved in writing, I didn't have to pay." They comped me ads for what did run.
Oh,
And
man.
so I was thinking, well, that's a hell of a deal. I didn't expect that.
Yep.
And then I went ahead and I was thinking, before I'd settle it, I'll get something from the NFL. And they said, no, the NFL's covered by our release. So I'm sitting there thinking, man, I need to ask for something else. They will give me something just to get this thing done.
Sure.
And John, I couldn't think of anything. So I just shouted, "Give me 2 game balls from every Super Bowl from now on." And they go, "Done."
That's it. Okay, so one of the things in business that I loved what you talked about, the culture in your business, is you've got to make the employees happy and the customers happy. And you actually said the employees are the most important part. That
They
was
are.
interesting to me.
Yeah, they are, because, they're the ones that are dealing with the customers. And it's so important that, they're doing it from a place of enthusiasm and excitement, because what will happen is, the customers, pick up on that enthusiasm. And what do we know about enthusiasm? It's contagious.
Yes.
So they want to tell their friends to come over, and they'll be customers too. So that's why it's so important to have your employees all charged up.
Bob, tell me about your foray into PXG Golf. That was a tough deal. I know a lot of people tried to talk you out of it, because that's a kind of a saturated market with old established brands. But you poach a couple of guys from Ping, key guys, to help you design a completely different golf club. Fair to say?
Exactly. So the golf clubs what we decided to do was to make golf clubs that really got significantly better whenever they were released. And so far we've done that. And boy, what a difference it's made. Back when before we started that, I spent a lot of money on golf equipment. I spent up to $300,000 a year. And I know it doesn't sound like it's possible, but I did it, and it's just, I tried everything. And the reason I did is because, basically, I'm not a great golfer. I'm a middle of the road at best. And so what I would do is I'd get new equipment, and usually the claims, they were hollow. Didn't really make the difference that I was hoping for. But once in a while, I'd see something, and I always thought, if I was in that business, what would I do? And then one day I had a guy from Ping come to me. And so he come talking to me, and I said to him, he's one of their engineers. I said, why doesn't your stuff get better every year? And he said, and first thing I want to say, Ping is a great company. They make good stuff.
Yeah.
So this is no knock on them. So he said, you know what? We got to hit price points, and we got to meet release dates, and we do the best that we can. And I said, okay, fine. And then I said to him, suppose you didn't have to meet price points. You could spend whatever you want on the equipment, or you could take as long as you want. Could you make something much, much better? And he said, man, I'd like to think we could, and I'd love to have the opportunity. And so I said, well, I'll start a company doing that. Why don't you join me? And he goes, I can't leave Ping. And he says, these folks are so good to me. So I told my right-hand guy, Steve Gabay, I said, Steve, this is after he left, I said, I'll hear from him within 2 months. I heard from him within a month, and 3 other guys wanted to join him.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing that you figured out was that golfers are so intense about their sport. They will, whether they can afford it or not, they will pay this kind of money because your price point is higher. They'll pay it if they think they're going to get a result.
Yeah, and my price point used to be higher, not anymore, John, because the volume that I have, and what we've learned about manufacturing and those sorts of things. So I'm right with everybody else, if not maybe a little less. And the reason I can sell it less is because I sell direct.
Yeah. I want to take the last part of the program to talk about your battle with PTSD.
Yeah.
You strike me as a different guy than I met several years ago when we were doing Entrepreneur of the Year. You seem very at peace and happy. I don't know if this comes with age or if it comes with psychedelics, but you experimented heavily with psychedelics, and you said it changed your life.
Well, what happened was in 2017, I read this book called How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It is all about psychedelics, reads like a novel. Wonderful, wonderful book. And, I was interested in the healing qualities because then, I was fighting PTSD. I would just start crying. Sometimes, I have a guy ask me if I served in Vietnam. I'd start crying, You start crying, John, when people talk to you. They quit talking to you after a while. I had a flash temper, depressed. I didn't want to be around people. So I asked my wife, Renee, I said, I'd love to try this. And she went to work with her contacts, and within 2 weeks had me hooked up with 2 people that travel as guides and treat others with psychedelics under the radar. So they treated me over 4 days with different types of psychedelics. And I'm telling you, it was hard. A lot of tears, hard crying. And when they was done, I was better than I was before I went into the Marine Corps.
Wow. This is becoming a treatment for a lot of people who are suffering from this. A lot of people are opting for this approach.
Yeah, it had been, when I did that, it had been 49 years since the war, and I finally came home.
Wow. Bob Parsons, I love the book, by the way, Fire in the Hole. I crash read it in the past 2 days. It's really an easy read, but there are a lot of gems in here, and we barely just scratched the surface. I highly recommend it. Bob Parsons. Bob, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're feeling, I think, really well, and your continued success and the philanthropic work you do is really admirable. Thank you, and for your service to the country.
Well, thank you so much, John.
Good to see you. Bob Parsons. We're back in a moment on Newsmaker.